Mindfulness practices are becoming more mainstream because they are effective in breaking the cycle of anxiety, sadness, stress, and depressive symptoms. As we learned in part 1 of this 3-part video series, most routine activities require little conscious attention because they fall within the domain of the unconscious mind and are highly automatized. This is Jack enjoying a hot bath after a long day at the office. He can't stop thinking about Carol, the new girl in accounts, and how attractive she is. He goes back and forth in his mind, wondering if he should ask her out for lunch next week. Jack bounces from thought to thought entirely without thinking about how to turn on the hot tap, reach for the soap, wash his hair, and unplug the bathtub before getting out and toweling off. His actions are in full automation. Most of our day-to-day activity is automatic and involves very little conscious attention. This includes the constant barrage of negative, worrisome, repetitive thoughts that plague the mind daily. Negative thoughts, worry, and rumination are associated with depression and anxiety. Mindfulness provides a means of interrupting this endless chatter and can gently quiet the mind. Becoming aware of thoughts in your mind is an act of conscious, mindful behavior. Mindfulness, therefore, creates a choice, and that choice is freedom. Jane is looking forward to meeting up with her best friend Tony. They plan dinner and a movie. They're both big sci-fi fans, so chaos walking was a no-brainer. Tony was very supportive after Jane's breakup with Mike 9 months ago. As she gets ready, her mind wanders back to the relationship. She plays the scene over and over, becomes angry, then disappointed, then sad before moving on to the next scene in her mind. She hates spending so much time thinking about Mike, but the intrusive thoughts just won't go away. They've consumed her to the point that she no longer feels excited about meeting Tony. She calls him up to cancel. She's just not up to it tonight. Rather than the incessant stream of thoughts with no off switch or even an option to hit pause, applying mindfulness practices helps you take control of your thoughts rather than the thoughts controlling you. This creates an inner state that is more conducive to mental health. Self-regulation is a key ingredient in creating this inner state of stillness. You get to choose the focus of your attention rather than the usual automatic reactions and routine patterns of thinking and behavior. Consequently, there is more room for a conscious response, which over time decreases the effect of automatic tendencies. If Jane was practicing mindfulness, as soon as her mind began to wander, she would have had a mechanism for interrupting these automatic thoughts. Instead of falling into her usual patterns of thinking that almost always left her feeling burnt out, she would have been in the driver's seat making conscious choices in her mind. The negative, uncontrollable thoughts would not have dominated Jane's mind, or that evening for that matter, and she would have left the house feeling excited about spending time with her best friend Tony. Undoubtedly, the evening would have cheered her up, and Mike would have been the last thing on her mind. Stress has almost become a given in modern day life, and none of us are immune from the daily grind and endless demands of modernity. Trisha is certainly no stranger to stress, and her story is probably no different from many others. Trisha was married to Jim for over 20 years, and they have 2 grown-up children. Their marriage started to fall apart after the first 8 years, but they decided to stay together for the sake of the kids. They shared the same house, but pretty much lived separate lives. Jim was diagnosed with a serious illness 3 years ago and could no longer keep his job. Trisha felt obligated to stick around, but she grew more and more resentful towards him as the days went by. Money was tight and the kids had already moved to a new city and had their own lives to deal with. The situation was overwhelming for Trisha, and she had frequent anxiety attacks. She was loath to take even more medications on top of the antidepressants she was already taking. Her stress levels were through the roof, but she felt powerless and over the years came to accept the voiceless screaming rage that was killing her inside. The amygdala is a key stress responding region in the brain and plays an important role in helping us cope with anxious situations. It's a well-known fact that high amygdala activity is associated with depression and anxiety disorders. The good news is that mindfulness practice can actually shrink the size of the amygdala and increase our stress reactivity threshold. Recent research performed by Taran and colleagues showed a connection between long-term mindfulness practice and decreased amygdala. By practicing mindfulness, we can change how we react to stressful situations and improve our mental and physical well-being. Fortunately for Tricia, her friend Sylvia introduced her to mindfulness. She resisted at first, believing it to be some new age fad, but Sylvia was persistent and persuaded her to give it a try. Tricia attended an 8-week mindfulness course and began implementing the practices on a daily basis. Whenever she noticed stress arising, felt overwhelmed, or was flooded with negative thoughts, she used mindfulness techniques to get present, directed her attention to her bodily sensations and movements, and to the ambient sights and sounds in the moment. She began paying attention to the thoughts in her mind as though she was an outside observer listening in, and was able to gently bring the thoughts back to the rhythm of her breath. Tricia felt more and more empowered as she was able to make a shift and respond to stress in a more conscious, mindful way. Now, instead of the automatic knee-jerk response she had to stress in the past, Tricia felt she could choose a different response, which over time had a tremendous impact on her mental health. With regular practice, Tricia cultivated a more balanced relationship with herself in relation to the reality of her life.